Welcome to episode 380 of the DFO Rundown presented by Bet365. And some good options tonight. 4 game sixes in the National Hockey League. 4 teams trying to move on to the second round, and another 4 hoping to stave off elimination. I'm Jason Gregor alongside Frank Saravalli. And Frank, before we get to tonight, let's talk about last night and a few more teams heading to the golf course. Since we spoke, actually, the Devils are gone. Now the Canadiens are gone. And the Tampa Bay Lightning in 5.
How's your bracket looking?
Yeah. Well, it's not looking great for Tampa Bay. So we'll see. All that matters is like your NCAA bracket. As long as you still have the winning team, then who cares?
I'm not sure that's how it works. I think you get points for every round. So
you get more points the deeper you go, right?
Yeah, but having Tampa play in the final, that was a really weird way of saying my bracket is busted.
Yeah, on the East side it is. There's no question. So
yeah, I don't know that anyone saw 5 games coming.
No.
But I think it raises some very real questions for the Tampa Bay Lightning about what's next. 3 consecutive losses in the first round. As good as Vasilevsky was in the regular season, he appeared to show his age a little bit when it came to the postseason again. Is he playing too much? And by the way, where were the Tampa Bay Lightning stars? Why was Nikita Kucherov more or less a passenger in this series and not a driver? So what happens next for a team that gave up 2 more first-round picks this year at the trade deadline? I know they go like, pick schmicks, but like, I mean, come on, like at some point, who's kidding who here? Like they count for something. And by the way, when you get to a position where you are trading away future years of first round picks, and I want to just double check to see if they're protected or not. I'm sure they are. But the Yanni Gourde, Oliver Bjorkstrand deal, like they traded away 2027 first round pick. It's top 10 protected, but those could be really, really good picks depending on what Tampa does here moving forward.
Yeah, I do agree with the philosophy that, you know what, if you got a good team and if you can make good picks in the 2nd to 7th round, you're okay. But you just eventually, you're reducing your odds, and you're always going to have to go out there and sign some free agents to fill your roster somewhere. And I guess you can always find a few diamonds in the rough, but like Brandon Hagel, for what you gave up to get him, he's worked out very well. Tanner Jeannot didn't. And you look at the age of Tampa Bay's players, and they are definitely, each year they get a little bit older. And you mentioned Vasilevsky's numbers. They're not great. 872. You look at his goals against of 3.27. Goals saved above expected isn't great. And then, you got Connor Hellebuck, who's, going to be one of the Vezina finalists announced today. And, even yesterday, he still allowed 3 goals and basically was, even with goals saved. So, and he's at 822. It is interesting. And you wonder about, there's 2 things at play here. Is the advanced scouting getting that much better? So when you get to a 7-game series, because every goalie has a weakness somewhere in the game, and the advanced scouting on some of these guys, Frank, you have to look at it and say, you know what, we find a tendency, we can beat a goalie. Like the St. Louis Blues prior to the game yesterday, they had taken 9 shots high glove hand on Hellebuck. You know how many went in?
6?
8. So that's obviously an area that you shoot through, right? Like we saw them get layered screens and shoot from the point. And obviously you get a little bit lucky at times, and you're looking from, some, breaks like the Pionk one that hits him and goes in, and those happen. But I think it's obvious that like Edmonton, I know on Kemper, who's going to be another finalist, and now he stood on his head in game 5. But prior to that, they had figured out attack him from below the goal line. I don't know why, but that's an area of weakness for him. And so every goalie has it, Frank. And I think, the advanced scouting now makes a big difference heading into series.
So how would we grade out, with the benefit of hindsight, but also keeping in mind what we said at the exact moment in time, the Gourde and Bjorkstrand trade? Like obviously some poor luck. Bjorkstrand gets hurt. He doesn't play. But Yanni Gourde was hurt before that and wasn't really a factor in the series?
Yeah, well, the hindsight, it's not a great trade, right? Bjorkstrand does have, I think, a year left on his deal, and Yanni Gord's UFA, and we'll
Probably
see what
going to
he.
resign. Yeah.
Yeah, probably resign. So,
You
to
retain
me,
the
you look.
players, but is that enough? Like when you lose in the first round, like I think you gave up serious, like everyone can say that after the fact, like, oh, well, how do we know how it's going to play out? I get that part of it, and that's not why I'm slamming them because they lost in the first round. I think going back and looking at the deal and saying what we said in March, I think they gave up too much then.
Yeah, well, I think if you said they gave up too much then I think the results back up, the original statement. Because to me, if you're making that trade, I think you got to go to at least the conference final for it to be worthwhile.
I think what rang through for the Lightning, not only were their stars not good enough, they're very thin after their top two lines. I think their bottom six struggles, and I think the bottom half of their defense really struggles. So with that said, and I guess I've been more down on the Bolts than other people have. I said that they were a team that I thought was in danger of not making the playoffs this year. Are they trending toward that next year?
No, like they were still pretty comfortable as a playoff team, but they are going to get a year older. I think they got to get a backup.
Have the Sens and the Canadiens redistributing points, most likely in the division.
Yeah, I look at them and I say, because really it comes down to, is there a fourth team in the Metro that you like enough, right? To
well, you
knock
think
off
the Rangers might be better, right?
Potentially, yeah. Well, that was such a disappointing season for them. So yeah, Tampa Bay will definitely be in that mix, Frank. A lot of it's going to depend on their offseason. And I know you floated out a few weeks ago, but 961 games. Now maybe they want to get to 1,000, but it's rare in the NHL. And it's not the coach's fault, but you wonder, does the coach and there is something to be said about a short series where it wasn't like you lost 3 games in overtime, right? Like they got beat pretty handily in this series, which I don't know if I know a lot of people pick Florida, but not many people pick Florida in 5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure anyone had the gall to do it in 5. I think this is a natural breaking point for the Lightning and Cooper. Doesn't mean it will happen, but it's definitely a time to sit back and ask questions. Is this the right path forward? We've been here together for 12 years. We've won 2 Stanley Cups. We've been one of the most successful teams in the league over that period of time. But Jon Cooper is not one of those guys that just sits back and it just takes the comfortable path. Like he's always up for a challenge. So is the challenge is what's driving him in helping try and get this team back on track in the playoffs? Or is the challenge going to do it somewhere else with a new team, new manager? Or is it a totally different job in general? I mean, there's been no shortage of rumblings out there that, hey, maybe Jon Cooper is one of those guys that would like to become a general manager. So look, the rumor's been out there for months. It's funny that it's kind of finally surfacing a little bit. But I had a GM call me in January and say, hey, the hot rumor is that Jon Cooper is going to Utah to become the next general manager. I mean, that's the type of stuff that gets talked about behind the scenes, whether it's true or not. I mean, there's a reason why I haven't said anything. The Lightning have been playing this whole time. I don't think it's fair to speculate about that. And I don't think that's fair to Bill Armstrong. So who's done a really good job. So I think you smash all those things together and you say, what's next? And then on the other end, why were so many people underestimating the Panthers?
Yeah, well, I don't even know. Well, probably maybe because of health and, they've been there 2 years in a row to the Cup final. Is there a little bit of fatigue? And, it was the 2 teams that had been to the Stanley Cup final last 5 years. And I kind of flipped a coin and picked Tampa in 7. I thought it'd be a close series. And really, when you look at it, like to me, the Tampa Bay Lightning, Frank, I thought a little bit of the meltdowns in games when they lost, right? Like you have a close game, you're up and boom, you give up 2 goals in like a minute and a bit in game 4 where it looks like you're going to win that game. And that's just Tampa Bay, Vasilevsky and Tampa Bay. That didn't happen in the past.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'm not ribbing you because of your bracket, but I just feel like when we talked about the playoff preview and setting up the series that you were way more down on Florida than I was. And it's not that I'm not saying one of us is right or wrong. I'm just saying I feel like we overlooked Florida as a whole, meaning the whole league, because everyone's like, oh, the fatigue and the injuries. And is Matthew Tkachuk going to be 100%? He comes into game one, scores 2 goals. So my question to you is it fair to say now that the Eastern Conference runs through Florida still and that they're the team to beat?
They're good. I've still liked Washington. Like, Washington's been good all year long. They've done nothing to me to look and say that Washington can't win and get to the conference final and maybe face Florida, right? We'll see. Does Toronto suddenly relax if they actually win a series here and win a clinching game? Who knows? But yeah, Florida, it's like, is Florida a legit team? 100%.
Clinching game or clenching game? Because that's what it's felt like for the Leafs.
We'll get some numbers on them.
Puckered buttholes.
Yeah. Now, what do you make of now the other 2 series? I think lots of people had those series going short series. New Jersey due to injuries more than anything else, and I think Montreal due to experience and due to size, which I think all came to fruition in that series. That both of them would be shorter series, and both of them were 5. And Washington, Carolina won. Did either team for you give you more confidence heading into the second round between Washington and Carolina?
Not really. I mean, to be honest, neither one of them were really overwhelming in a positive way. Like, I'm not knocking them for taking care of business, but I think there's such a disparity in opponents. And not only that, but I would say that the 4-1 score for Washington in the series doesn't really indicate how tight that series was. I mean, first game goes to OT. Second game, Caps nearly tie it in the third. The Canadiens nearly tie it in the third. Third game, the Canadiens win and push back against a much bigger, more experienced team. Fourth game, the Canadiens have a lead in the third period. Like, I'm not playing the ifs and buts game because my aunt would be my uncle. What I'm saying is, in this case, I don't know that the Caps really dominated the series until game 5. And that was the most lopsided game. And if you watched it from start to finish, watching the last 40 minutes or so, maybe 30, some of that score effects, but the Canadiens were right there. Like, they put the heat on until the very end. So I give the Canadiens full marks. I think their future is incredibly bright. And it's not that I'm downgrading the Caps, because in the end, they won 4 out of 5 games. It's just that I don't know that they really overly impressed me at all.
Yeah, that's fair. Probably because of their opponent, they would have had to blow them out, I think, for a lot of people to be truly impressed. What's interesting about them was at times I thought they allowed Montreal to have sustained pressure probably too long for a team that was bigger. And I'm like, break up a cycle, So that's maybe a concern. And now when you look at how Carolina plays, you would think, hey, that's not a great matchup for Washington, because Carolina is like a relentless team that's really attack, right? I love how Carolina plays. There's not much question about it. But even Carolina against the Devils, like, they had to come back from a 3-0 deficit in game 5 to win.
And the Devils just looked so defeated at that point. Once that happened, it was like nighty-night.
And the Devils were so depleted with injuries.
Yeah, but like, as I said in my series preview, like, this Devils team has not been a good hockey team since January 1st, well before the Jack Hughes injury. So I think the Devils are another team that has real questions. They don't have the size. They don't have the depth. And how do you fix those things?
Well, I like their D if it's healthy. But when you consider, like, Siegenthaler only played 3 of 5. Kovacevic only played 3 of 5. Luke Hughes only played 1 of 5. Like, that's a pretty big blow. And there's not many teams that are going to have, 3 of your top 4 or 5 defensemen.
Brendan Dillon was out. I mean,
right.
It was
so Brendan Dillon played 1 game, right? So there's 4 of your top 5 defensemen, and they're not even playing every night. So I like their defense a lot. But I've said it for years. I think New Jersey, outside of Timo Meier, Mercer a little bit, but they got a lot of small forwards. And you can have some, but it can't be the majority. And I'm very interested to see, because if you just come back with the exact same forward group, Frank, I think we'll be talking in a year's time about a first round playoff exit for the New Jersey Devils. Like, they're going to have to make a move there.
Well, yeah, I think it's highlighted and underlined by Jack Hughes, their superstar center, is as slight as he is. Like, it feels like every hit that he takes could knock him out for 6 weeks. And when that's your leader, it's really difficult to kind of then look at the rest of the roster and say, oh yeah, they have enough brawn to get there. I think the bigger question is, it's the Devils are in a very clear tier, to your point, like potential first round exit next year, might miss the playoffs. If they get lucky, get a good matchup, could maybe advance to round 2. I think they've done a lot of the heavy lifting. They've made, to your point on defense, a lot of really smart moves. Jacob Markstrom seems to be fine in goal. How do you get to the next level? How do you get from playoff team to contender? And I guess my thing with the Devils is I just don't really see them being close to that.
Well, when I look at New Jersey, I think they got to trade one of their defensemen, because like, you look at the guys they've got under contract: Hamilton, Pesce, Dillon, Siegenthaler, Luke Hughes is an RFA. Obviously, they're signing him. Kovacevic, they just re-signed. He starts next year. Simon Nemec will be in the last year of his entry-level deal. Like, there's 7 really good defensemen. I didn't even mention, Seamus Casey, another good young guy. Like, they've got some potential to want to move a defenseman, and teams are always looking for them. And you know what? They got a lot of good right defensemen. And to me, you could make a significant move for a defenseman for a bigger skilled forward. I think that's the trade for the New Jersey Devils. I understand the importance of depth on the blue line. And there's always a challenge, Frank. You have guys on your team that can help you get to the playoffs. And then you have some players who you're like, man, they're not great in the regular season, but they're good in the playoffs. And you need a little bit of a balance of both. And I think the Devils have enough to get to the playoffs, but they got to get some more guys that can help them in the playoffs. If that makes sense. So that's kind of where I see it.
Yeah. And I wonder, will that guy be Simon Nemec?
Yeah. Last year of his deal, he's pretty cheap. Like, I don't know. There's some other guys if it was me, that's not the guy I'm moving, but who knows? But because he might get you the best return too. So there's always that. Yeah. But to me, that's the path for the Devils. They got to make a move. Now I haven't looked really in depth after, for the free agent forwards. I'm not a huge believer that shopping in free agency, especially, maybe in the bargain bin, that's the best way, but lots of times you overpay in free agency and it doesn't pan out. There's a few that do, but not a lot. So it's not the best place to shop if you're wanting to really improve your team.
Yeah, I'm with you. Can I vent for a second?
Sure.
What really pisses me off about Twitter and social media is, and I was having this conversation with Tyler yesterday off air, but you can say something and then people want to twist it another way. So like, you could say, I like pancakes, and someone's going to reply to you and say, well, why the fuck do you hate waffles? And it's like, no, I didn't say anything about waffles. I just said I like pancakes. And now, so yesterday I tweet this crazy stat. Rod Brind'Amour is the first coach in NHL history to win a playoff series in each of his first 7 seasons. It's hard to make the playoffs in general 7 years in a row, let alone win a round. And
how many coaches have even won a round 7 years in a row at any point?
Not many. Al Arbour's won. I mean, it's a very short list.
Okay.
Pat Burns had 6, but he split that between Montreal and Toronto. It's not a very long list. So my point is, I tweet that, and then, Twitter being what it is, all the replies are, yeah, but how many conference final wins does he have? Because the Canes have been swept. And I get that. Those are really weird way of me getting to my point on the Canes and going to ask you this question. Did this first round series do anything to dispel the notion for you that the Canes are a good team, but not a great team, and that they're a team that won't be able to score enough when it matters most?
Well, it definitely hasn't dispelled they're not a great team, because New Jersey, we just outlined, New Jersey's banged up. You got all these D-men and they're one of their best forwards out. So no, they're a very competitive team, which they give themselves a shot every year, right? Like, I think Sather's probably another guy on your list, right? Early with the orders maybe, but you look at the Hurricanes, and here they are again in the Elite Eight. How many teams have even won, been to the second round 4 years in a row, right? I'd have to look it up. I bet you there's not many. So it's hard.
Even Glenn Sather does not have. He does not. The most he's ever had is 3 in a row.
Well, yeah, because they lost in 82. So 83, 84, 85, 86, 87.
They lost in 86. So
but that was in the second. That was in the second round in 86, though.
Okay. Sorry. You're right. The round.
But it wasn't best of sevens.
It wasn't best of 7. That's why. So, but he's got 6.
Okay, there you go. So it's hard. Yeah. Like, I can't, for being like Carolina, and this is the great conversation. Like, everybody said the Sharks were the most successful franchise if wins are the barometer. They just didn't win the Stanley Cup final, which you need a little bit of luck, and obviously you need a good team, and you don't have to have injuries and blah, 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 blah. So we look at it and say, what would you rather have? A team that wins? Like, look at the old Carolina Hurricanes. Go to the Cup final in 2002, miss the playoffs for a few years. Win the Cup in 2006, don't get in the playoffs for a long time. Do you want that, or do you want a team that's every year in the mix? They're going to the second round. Some years they go to the third round. Yes, they haven't got to the Cup final, but they've been in the mix. They're one of the top 8 teams for 7 straight years. So it is, I don't think I've always said this, they lack a game breaker offensively. Now, they tried to get Rantanen, so I give them credit. They tried it. It's not like they're not aware of it. It didn't work. And then they moved him on and said, okay, and that's what I loved about it. It's like, you don't magnify your problem and say, well, we'll just keep Rantanen because we need him in the playoffs, and then he's going to walk away, and now we're going to be way deeper. They said, okay, he's not signing here. Screw it. We'll make another trade. So I like everything about it, but they're missing the one key piece. This is hard to get, which is an offensive game breaker. The rest of their team is very good, but they missed that one piece.
And they had him for a few weeks, and then he didn't look that great. And by the way, he's been closer to a $6 or $7 million player in Dallas as opposed to what he signed for.
Well, maybe a bit higher. He did have 18 points in 20 games, and he did look good his last game. Like, he finally woke up, and that's, we'll get to that series later, but it's hard. The only way Carolina, if you look at it historically, Frank, how do you get a top end player? Your team sucks and you draft them in the top 5 for the majority of them, right?
They're not going to be doing that for a long time.
Yeah, because if we go through, now Kucherov's an exception, so I guess you can always get an exception. He was 58th, I think, top guy. But if you look at everybody else, top players, McKinnon first overall, Draisaitl third, Marner fourth, McDavid first. Now Kyle Connor, I guess, 18th, David Pastrnak 25th, so Eichel's 2, McCarr's top 4, Crosby. So there are exceptions, but if you go over a 5-year span, the majority are going to be high-end picks. So now maybe you can find a Kaprizov, a little bit later on. So there are obviously outliers, but for Carolina, they've been able to draft pretty well. Sebastian Aho is a really good player. Svechnikov's a really good player. Marty Necas, really good player, right? But they don't have the elite top end guy. And then the question is, does Rod Brind'Amour's philosophy allow for someone to really be an offensive dynamo when you only play 19 minutes a night?
That's, I think, the key money question, because he's not going anywhere. The question will be, will Rod Brind'Amour reshape or reevaluate his structure and system over the, if you have another loss, to then perhaps better allow for some freedom and flexibility?
Yeah, it's fair, because you do need, if I'm looking at the top scorers, you got to go down to Clayton Keller, who's 12th, was the only one with 90 points who was under 20 minutes a night, and he was at 19. So I guess you could do it, but he's still getting boatloads of power play time. And, like Sebastian Aho leads their team with 70 points. He did play 20 minutes, so they just maybe don't have the guy right now. So maybe that's why. But if they get one, I wonder, would he play? Because when they had Rantanen, he didn't play that many minutes.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to get one. And I have no doubt they're going to try on Mitch Marner this summer. But it's not going to be easy. They've got tons of cap space, though. Quickly, because they will likely play their first game before we talk again on Monday. Caps or Canes?
I have the Caps.
I got the Canes. I think the Caps are going to push them around. I think they're bigger. They're stronger. They obviously score more at will. And by the way, Freddie Anderson is still definitely a question, but I think the Caps showed some vulnerabilities. I really think so.
Oh, I think it'll be a long series. Like, I'll be surprised if this one's 5, as both of them just 1-5. That'd be a surprise to me. And hey, that's the Capitals' first series win since they won the Cup.
Yes,
so,
2018.
Big for them. And hey, how about Ovi, man? Everyone's like, oh yeah, he's gonna still scored 4 goals in 5 games in the playoffs. So
yeah, I guess, I mean, obviously I'll watch that series really closely. Like,
he doesn't dominate, but he scores
Tom
goals.
Wilson called him their MVP through round 1, and I was like, was he? Like, was he really?
He scored some key goals, but Dylan Strome, I thought, was their best player.
Yeah, he did not dominate by any stretch. And just for some perspective, because I looked it up while we were talking on the Canes, even as unbelievable as that Sharks run was for a 10-year period of time, this is how it went. Win 2 rounds, win 1 round, win 1 round. So that's 4 years in a row with at least 1. Lost in the first.
Yeah.
Then it was win 2, lose in the first. Win 1, lose in the first. Miss the playoffs. Win 3, lose in the first round. Like, it's not easy to have that kind of consistency. And you could say, but the bracket and it sets up. No. That's not how it works. It's just not even easy to make it 7 years in a row.
Like, everybody likes to pick up. I'm like, oh yeah, the bracket would make it easier. Like, they don't even understand the simple concept, Frank. 3 versus 6 and 4 versus. It's not changing. The same top 2 teams play the bottom 2 wildcard teams. That's not going to change in 1 to 7, 1 to 8, 99% of the time. It doesn't change. So you're always going to have the 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5, 2 versus 3 matchups. Guess what? The playoffs is supposed to be hard. Stop whining and wanting your team to get a great, easy matchup. It's garbage.
Not only that, but the bracket they love the bracket. They love that you can play the bracket game. They love that Charles Barkley picks his bracket. They love the attention that the bracket gets because it has that March Madness feel. They are never, ever, ever, like, write it down, underline it, write it in Sharpie. They are never moving away from the bracket. They're not going to go back to reseeding or anything like that. It's never going to happen.
No, I don't mind it. I'm totally fine with it. I have no issue with it. Let's bring it. We'll get to the games tonight, but let's get Tyler Yaremchuk on the pod. Ty, how you doing?
I'm doing good, boys. Ready to go with a new edition of Buy or Sell, brought to you by Bet365, an official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. From game props, player props, totals, and money line, you can even bet on futures like series winners, conference champions, and of course, the Stanley Cup champion. Whatever you bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs, must be 19 or older. All right, let's start with some off-ice stuff. Since you guys recorded the last pod, it's official. Rick Tocchet is a free agent head coach. So, simple one. Who are you buying on as the best fit for Rick Tocchet, Frank?
I know everyone wants me to say the Flyers. And I think there's a large probability or possibility that he ends up there. He's got deep ties to the organization. He's very close with President of Hockey Ops Keith Jones. He's in their Hall of Fame. He loves the city and the region. It would be so familiar and so comfortable. I just think if you're walking away from the Vancouver Canucks because you're not sold on the vision, the plan, the freedom to affect change, and the ability or potential ability to have success and win, I just don't know that the Flyers are any better. I think they're as much of a wild card as the Canucks based on what we have right now. And so I know that everyone wants to point to that, but you asked me the question of what do I think is the best fit? And I think the best fit might be the Boston Bruins.
Ooh. All right, Greg's.
Well, I'm going to go off the board based on the rumblings. And if Jon Cooper leaves, I'll say Tampa Bay.
He's already been there, done that.
Yeah, but not with that team.
Not with that ownership group, but he was the head coach in Tampa, which is.
But if Jon Cooper does leave, Frank, hypothetically, would Tampa Bay not be right near the top of the list of teams you'd want to coach of the ones that are available right now?
For sure. But I also,
if not,
again, I think they're trending in the wrong direction. Yeah. So I want a team that's on the upward swing.
Yeah. If Jon Cooper stays, though, I'll take the Rangers.
Yeah, Rangers are one that makes a lot of sense too.
Sorry, I answered that assuming that Mike Sullivan's going to the Rangers.
Oh, okay.
Oh really?
Yeah, I'm just assuming the Rangers are off the board.
The one thing about Sullivan, Frank, you know what? His team in Pittsburgh, they were the best offensive team at pass. So if you go in the middle of the ice in the offensive zone, paint a line in the middle of the ice. The best way to score lots of goals is to cross that ice, either with the puck a few times passing. They were the best offensive team doing it offensively, and they were the worst allowing it defensively. That's what's interesting about Pittsburgh, is how much of a disparity it was with that team under Sullivan.
Two things. One, we just talked about Carolina and their 7-year streak of winning at least one round. Pittsburgh Penguins have not won a round in 7 years. And fact number 2 is Mike Sullivan has never advanced past the second round without Rick Tocchet on his bench.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
There you go.
All right. Next one I got for you guys. You talked about the Devils maybe being a team who could make a big splash on the trade market this year, but what about the Montreal Canadiens? Obviously, you could say things got sped up a little bit this season, making the playoffs. They have this great young core. So buy or sell on the Habs making a big trade this summer, Greg's? And what area, if you say buy, maybe what area do you think they'll look at?
Yeah, it's interesting because right. And so who is the if I'm Montreal, I just made the playoffs, I had this nice little Cinderella run, which was great. I'm not a big believer that you can't rush things. Usually when you rush it, it doesn't work. So I'd actually keep my powder dry and just nibble around the edges and add a few pieces. I think I like my core, so I'm going to try to keep it there. But doing it once is one thing. Doing it twice when everybody's expecting you now is going to be a little bit harder.
So everything that you just said is everything that the Montreal Canadiens and Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton are actually internalizing. They feel the same way. They feel like, hey, we've got a good thing going here. We're not going to go over the top and try and, vault from playoff team to contender in 1 year. It's just not going to happen. So they're fully cognizant of that. If the opportunity presents itself to be aggressive, though, that doesn't lock them into anything long-term, I could see them being players on that. They also have too many defensemen still, which is why they ended up trading Kovacevic previously, but Reinbacher's on the way, Mayu's on the way, and shout out to David Savard for a great career. An emotional night for him as they lose. You could see the tears flowing down his face during the handshake line. Full marks for him, but they've got too many defensemen. And one area that I'd like to see the Canadiens add in, Josh Anderson and Arbor Xhekaj are not enough. You need more size. Uri Slafkovsky's got it, but you need more size. You need more brawn. That was a big, they were the much smaller team against Montreal or against Washington.
Yeah. Like Dvorak and Armia are their 2 free agents up front. Right. Which, that comes to about $8 million if you want to use it on some other guys to come in. So, and they don't have any of their big guys, starting new contracts this year with significant raises. So, that's a good thing. So they got a lot of cap space if they want. But I agree with you. You go get a few guys maybe on 1-2 year deals to help your team, but you don't want to lock in on some mid-tier free agent who's a 30-year-old and you pay him 6 years. And after 2 years, you're like, God, what did we do?
I can bet you all the money in the world that that's not something they will do. And I want to say two more things, not to hijack this, but we didn't really get to talk Canadiens in the first part of the show. I love their power play, like what they've got moving forward. And I'm like, remove Patrick Laine, but Demidov across the ice to Cole Caulfield, Slavkovsky in front of the net, Suzuki as the bumper guy, and then at the top, Lane Hudson. Chef's kiss. So good. And I love their stick-to-itiveness this year. Like, I'm not saying that's going to be a recipe for future success, or it's going to be or maybe I should say it this way, not necessarily going to be a predictor for future success, but they were dead last in the East on December 1st. They were tied for the most losses in the league with Chicago. And while the Detroit Red Wings are sitting here crying about, oh, we didn't get any help at the trade deadline, wah. Well, the Montreal Canadiens didn't either. And not only that, but they had a couple guys say, you know what, I'm going to sign for less than market value because I want to stay here and be part of this. That's powerful.
Yeah.
I will say this about the Habs. Their defense, they got to get some size there, man. You lose David Savard. They got one guy over 200 pounds. And that's Gouli. That's it. Now, Jacky. And you know what? Their team sure played a little bit different with him in the lineup. So I don't care if he's your number 6. What he adds emotionally to your team, do not discount it.
I just want to call him Jacky.
I know. Jacky. Jacky. Right.
They do have the extensions for Gouli and Slavkovsky kick in, but they still have $8.9 million in cap space, and they can use Carey Price's LTIR pool if they wanted to go that direction as well. So definitely some wiggle room there, and obviously a bunch of draft picks that they could use as well. Multiple picks in each of the first 4 rounds in this upcoming NHL draft. Let's wrap up with the odds on Bet365. There are 5 teams who are trailing 3-2 in their best of 7 first round series. I want you guys to give me a team you want to buy on. Give me a team you're selling on and saying they don't quite have a shot, or maybe have the worst shot out of the bunch, Frank.
Team I'm buying on is the Edmonton Oilers.
No, he's saying the team.
Oh, down. I thought you meant team to buy to move on. I think the Oilers close it out on today.
Okay, so you're selling on the Kings. You think the Kings have the worst shot of the bunch? Who has the best shot to come back from down 3-2?
Yeah, the Kings are straight up washed. They're folding like a cheap tent in a soft wind. I'm gonna say best chance to come back is the Ottawa Senators.
President of Chaos, Frank Saravalli. Greg's, who he's saying, who's got the best chance, who's got the worst?
Well, best chance I would say is Colorado. They're at home for game 6, then you get into roll the dice game 7. And
that's the easy answer.
Well, I know. Hey, we're looking for the right answer, Frank. You don't get dock points for getting the right answer. I will say Colorado, and then I'll stick with the Kings. Edmonton is 6-0 in this era of McDavid and Draisaitl, when they have a clinching possibility outside of game 7. Obviously, they lost 2 game 7s, which are technically clinchers, but so they're 6-0 there, and then they're 1-2 in game 7. So they've been really good. And the last game, it's a cliche when you say play 60 minutes. I don't think I've ever watched a game where one team controlled the whole game for 60 minutes. Like, it was weird. And really, ever since the third period of game 4, like, that has been an absolute ass kicking in that series. And we'll go back. I'm sure that, like, the Jim Hiller review, man, is going to be talked about for a long time. Now, they did play well in periods 1 and 2 after that in game 4, but ever since then, it's been like utter domination by one team.
I think it has a very real chance to mark the beginning of the end of the Jim Hiller era in Los Angeles. We've got 8 coaching openings today, vacancies. Let's see what happens with Cooper. Let's see what happens with Patrick Waugh. Let's see what happens with Jim Hiller. That could be 11.
Well, how do they not forecheck? I don't understand it.
How do you play Adrian Kempe on defense? How do you not have more defensemen to play? The reason why you get the wheels beaten off of you in the third period is not only because it's 97-29, but it's because the rest of your guys are gassed.
Yeah. Hey, maybe Kempe's this era's version of Sergei Fedorov. Remember when he went and played defense, and so many players were pissed off because they're like, God, he's better than me, and this is his first time playing defense.
Yeah, but here's the difference: is Sergei Fedorov had some size.
Well, Kempe's a big dude.
I mean, I don't look at Kempe and go like he's overwhelmingly like he's a good skater. He's all those things. Like I don't look at him to have anywhere near the power that Fedorov had.
Really? Oh, I think Kempe's an unbelievable, powerful skater and strong. Like
I just look at Fedorov in a totally different category. Gifted.
Well, he was an unreal skater. I was just making a joke about guys playing defense because it's hard, man. Like we see a lot of defensemen go play forward. Not a lot of forwards who suddenly you're like, hey, coach, I'm comfortable back here.
Yeah, in the middle of a damn playoff series. We almost never see it. Like it's not game 71. This is game 5 of the playoffs. What are we doing?
Do you know which the highest shooting percentage for goals in the NHL playoffs come off what plays? You know what? Forechecking. The shooting percentage for goals off of forecheck are 23%. The next closest is 9. And if Kings don't forecheck, the hell, 4 years in a row, Frank, they don't forecheck. Not one series, 4 years in a row. It's mind-blowing to me.
Maybe we see wholesale changes with the LA Kings. I've mentioned before, I don't know why it doesn't get more publicity, but Rob Blake doesn't have a contract next year.
Yeah.
It's his choice. They've put one on the table. He hasn't signed it. So what happens next?
Yeah, fascinating.
Just to wrap it up for Bet365, they do say that the Colorado Avalanche have the best shot at coming back from down 3-2. They are plus 170 to win this series. Second on that list is actually the Ottawa Senators at plus 300. Then the Kings at plus 320, the Blues at plus 390, and then the Wild coming up the rear at plus 5.
What? The Wild? Do you know that blows my mind?
Really?
The expected save percentage, the worst in the NHL for any team is Vegas. Yes. Aiden Hill's had to play great. Their expected save percentage is .864, right? Like he's been unreal in that series. Unreal.
Isn't that a reason to believe that he just wins one of the next two then?
Well, yeah, but it's also one that Minnesota's been right in that series. I think they've been a better team for a long stretch.
I agree.
So,
I just
can't see how they're at them the lowest odds. Jeez, I might have to take some. I don't mind that at all because I think
Vegas caught a serious break with that challenge, and I just don't see them coughing that up now.
You could be right, but to me, the other is which teams do I even think are going to get to Game 7, right? So that's why I look at Minnesota at home. I'm pretty confident they win Game 6. They might not win Game 7, but I got way less confidence of the Kings, who, by the way, were the worst road team of the Western Conference playoff teams, that they're going to win on the road. No.
All right, there you go, boys. That is a wrap on this week's edition of Buy or Sell, brought to you by Bet365.
I think the Jets, Oilers, Golden Knights all close it out in Game 6.
The Jets on the road, eh? Yeah, we'll see. They might but Hellebuyck
just got to clean it up one game.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. When they play great defense, they win. They're not winning from their goaltender. They're winning from their great team defense. Like his numbers are atrocious in this series.
All of which brings us to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah. Like that, they haven't looked. I know, like it's a historical one, so you wonder if there's a mental thing.
What do you mean you wonder?
Like being 1-13 for people who don't know what we're talking about. They're 1-13 when they have a chance to clinch a series. Like that number itself, that's since 2018, is so ridiculous. So they've played really well to get the lead, but then they can't finish it off. Like it makes no sense really to be like, and by the way, the win came in overtime. So they haven't won one game when they have a clinching scenario. So maybe if they do it, but I'll like, just for drama, I really want the Sens to win Game 6. Just to have 2 days of Leafs Nation losing their mind. I still think Toronto.
They already are.
Yeah, but Frank, if they lose Game 6 on the road, it gets heightened even more.
They're shitting their pants. This was supposed to be the easy series.
Yeah.
How could you possibly create a path for the Leafs to beat the Panthers in 7 games next round?
You know what? Maybe because that would be the first clinching game of the series for them.
It's not a clinching game. As I said before, it is a clenching game.
Yeah.
And I think my big concern is, where are the big dogs again?
Oh,
Games 5 through 7, the numbers don't lie. It's not a historical thing. It's not a mental thing. Mitch Marner has played 15 games in his career in the meat of the series, games 5 through 7. He has 0 goals and 6 points. Austin Matthews, 10 points in 16 games. 11 points in 16 games, excuse me. I look at it and say, what's the path for them to win? They've got to, those guys have to score. I overstated it, by the way. I was pulling up the number. I was slow to find it. Marner, 16 games, 0 goals, 5 assists. Matthews, 15 games, 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 points. Tavares, 10 points in 14 games. Nylander, the best of the bunch, 13 and 16. All of these guys, maybe not Tavares, but the rest of this crew, Marner, Matthews, Nylander, all well north of point per game guys in the regular season for their careers. Yeah. And yet in the playoffs, they drop way down. And when it matters even more to close out a series, their numbers are atrocious compared to their regular season production.
And their numbers are atrocious. Their power play is atrocious in those games too, Frank. Right? So no coincidence.
0 for 30?
Yeah. Like no coincidence. And
there's a reason why I picked the Sens to win this series. And again, not gloating, until we see the Toronto Maple Leafs do it and make life easy and just have all the composure in the world that they seem to have to start this series, I'm not picking them. Need to see it and understand it and believe it before I pick them again.
I get it. I still think they'll find a way to win the series, but they're not doing themselves any favors to make you believe they're going to beat Florida. That's totally valid.
And that's all that matters. You don't get any points for getting 25% of the way there. I'm not taking away now what we just said about Carolina, but when you don't have any sustained success, and a sustained keyword, you don't even have a chance. Like, were the Vancouver Canucks celebrating winning 1 round last year? Did anyone think that they were heading into the season like, oh my God, we're no. Or that they went on some deep run that everyone deserved a pat on the back?
So
only in Toronto where it's like, oh my God, we won a round. Like, rejoice.
Well, if they win a game 6 and they clinch a game, they'll improve to 2-13. Like, buddy, they'll double their winning percentage.
I have no words. I don't. It's one thing to play and have a tight game and you lose.
Yes.
It's another thing to be shut out. It really is.
You lose to Boston numerous times. You lose 3 in a row one year. You're up 3-1. Montreal, you choked against. It's not like it's just one team. Tampa Bay, Boston, Columbus, Montreal, all these teams in games, because Florida got spanked, so it wasn't even Florida. They lost in 5. All those teams they've had on the ropes, and they couldn't beat any of them. So this is another team. So does Ottawa now? I guess maybe they hope their past history is helping. We'll see.
So you think the Leafs close it out in 6 or 7?
Well, I think 7. A little extra drama, just because teams coming back from 3-0 is very, very hard. There's been more to make it to the game 7 and don't win than ones who actually finish it off. So we saw it last year in the Cup final. Of course, you had the LA did it against the Sharks, and of course the Flyers did it in 2010. So it can happen, but I don't know. I think Toronto will find a way to get by that round, but now, it just makes it harder. Like, imagine had they just won game 5. I expected Ottawa to win game 4 at home. And actually, Toronto played pretty well in that game. That was the game they played well. In game 5, they sucked, right? Like, they weren't really close in that game. Game 4, I thought they were quite good and probably could have deserved to win. But I thought Ottawa would find a way to win 1. But now their fans get another game. And I'm just curious what the percentage of fans, because there was way more Toronto fans in game 4. It's like Ottawa fans gave up on their team and like, I don't want to be there. So there's way more Leaf fans in the building for game 4. I wonder what we'll see tonight amongst Leaf representatives. Like, the Ottawa fans say, okay, I'm not selling. I'm actually going to support my team.
That plus I think you're going to see interest wane based on the way, like, if you're a Toronto fan and you live in Toronto, I'm not driving 4 or 5 hours for that to watch that misery again. I don't want to be part of that.
Buddy, they got so much scar tissue as a fan in Toronto. Right now, it's probably just like, buddy, I want to be there just for the win or the loss. So awesome. Well, we'll see. It'll be fun. And then Monday, we will break it down. We should have the start of the second round potentially on Sunday with the Capitals and the Hurricanes and the other series wrapping up.
We didn't talk just quickly. Jets Blues. What do you think happens?
I think the Jets end up winning it, but I think they'll win it in 7. I think it's going to be the ultimate homer series.
Interesting.
So I'm not sure if they got an answer yet for the Blues, so we'll find out. Cam Fowler, what a series for Cam Fowler. Shout out to him. 9 points, leading all defensemen. He's right up there in top 5 in scoring, so he's had a hell of a playoffs. Right now, the best in-season acquisition, no question. For what they gave up, Cam Fowler's been awesome for the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, let me pimp 2 things. One, got a Logan Couture interview dropping today on Frankly Speaking. Really insightful conversation about what he went through the last few years, the pain that he still feels. Like he can only play golf once every 10 days because his body hurts so bad afterwards. That's the stage that he's at. Needed help getting out of bed for a while. So he's hoping he can rebound and have a normal life, and really enjoyed our chat after a fantastic career. And 2, I've got a full list of coaching candidates popping up on dailyfaceoff.com today, Thursday, May 1st. There's like 17 or 18 names on the list, which sounds like an outlandish number. But as said, we might have 11 openings.
Should be good, man. Have a great weekend, everyone. That's the rundown brought to you by Bet365.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.